Well, welcome. My name is Bill Cook, and I want to welcome you to our live webinar on VIPS and the Smart Farm System. It's really exciting today to have a really great group of professionals here to share with you some really cool things that's going on in agriculture and in the consumer marketplace. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce one of our first presenters of the VIPS and how the VIPS program works with the Smart Farm System, and that's the great lady from Missouri by the name of Sue Beard. Sue, would you please join us?
Thank you. Thank you for having us today. I'm always excited to talk about VIPS. You know, my name is Sue Beard. I am the Executive Director of the Mid-America Organic Association. I am also on the National Organic Standards Board, and I serve on the board of OMRI, Organic Materials Review Institute, amongst other boards. I've been involved with the organic industry now since 1999, before it became a federal law in 2002. So I have seen organic movement grow from the time when I first got into it. They said, "Oh, you're part of that tree-hugging liberal hippie group," and now it is mainstream. In fact, organic is so mainstream that we continually see growth, and OTA says, Organic Trade Association, says that there's over $10 billion of organic products sold this year. Our grain industry, organic grain industry, and non-GMO grain industry is growing by leaps and bounds. Demand, because our consumers demand that kind of product. You know, there's been some studies that shows there's no health issues associated with GMOs, but our public still doesn't believe that. So, because, or a majority, or a certain segment of the public doesn't believe that. Because of that, the demand is growing every day for non-GMO and for transitional to organic into organic production. Because of that, one of the driving facts of that is because of our livestock. People want their livestock to be natural. They want it to not have hormones. They don't want it to have antibiotics, and they want it to not be fed organic and non-GMO feeds. And because of that, we're seeing a huge import of organic grains. In fact, I was reading a study that said over 600 metric tons of grains are being imported. And that's a sad thing for me, because I see our domestic markets where our farmers could be getting such premiums. Because of the demand for non-GMOs, we're seeing a lot of self-certified. And it's easy for people to say that they're growing organic or they're growing non-GMO, but without some kind of a certification system, people don't know what to believe, and that leads me up to VIPS. MOA is a 501c3 organization, and we were approached by the Smart Farm people here, these great experts we have today, last year, asking if we would help implement a verification, a third-party verification program called VIPS. And it just touched my heart, excited me immensely, because I could see a way that we could add value to our family farmers here and across our nation. And let me just kind of explain to you what VIPS is. VIPS is a third-party verified system. We have standards for grain production. We have standards for livestock. We have standards for our processors, because we know that it doesn't matter where in the chain you start, you have to keep that chain verified from beginning to end. We do verification. We have inspectors that'll go out to the fields. We have audits, tracking systems, all implemented through this VIPS and Smart Farm Plot system. It's just an exciting day, and so I really, really appreciate Bill and his group, all this nice group of experts today that will help elaborate on the reason that we are excited about VIPS. Thank you, Bill.
Well, don't get away from me, Sue,
okay.
here just quite yet. But Sue is just one of the fearless leaders. She's been involved in this type of agriculture, trying to improve farmers' incomes. And we're so excited about working with the Organic Association. We're working with the third party, and all about how we brand smart farms.
Absolutely.
And you, as farmers, are the brand, and that's what's so important about this, Sue. And I want to thank you for being a part of our webinar today.
Thank you.
You're
so
truly
much.
a blessing.
Appreciate it.
Well, it is an exciting webinar we have, and we've got a lot of cool things coming up as we go forward. One of the things that I want to introduce the next gentleman. Now, this next person that I'm going to introduce is going to talk a little bit about global agriculture, a lot of things that's going on in agriculture. I will truly say that this gentleman is one of the true leaders in agriculture. He's been involved with the Cargills and the ADMs and contracts and relationships around the world. He is a major part of why we had biodiesels and all the opportunities that we've had with our farmers and some of the things that went on in Missouri for the last 2.5 decades. So with no further ado, I'm so excited about having on our webinar today a great gentleman by the name of Dale Ludwig. Dale, would you please join us?
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome, partner.
Appreciate it. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and share some information with you about some trends in agriculture, trends that we see. And if we start out just by saying, if you don't give your customer what they want, someone else will. You know, in some ways we've been a victim of our own success, in that in this great country, the United States that we live in, farmers have been outrageously successful at delivering crops at such a low value that Americans only spend about 10% of their take-home income on food. Well, what this does, the great thing that it does, it lets them buy bigger houses, it lets them buy bigger cars, more cars, it lets them buy boats and vacation homes and all that sort of thing. But it also allows people, if they want to spend more money on specifics on food, they have the disposable income to do that. And a number of people do. Things like non-GMO corn, soybeans, and most of the things that we deal with in agriculture are non-GMO, or they're grains, or corn, soybeans, wheat, those types of things, and then animals. And the non-GMO, organic, and those types of things end up being fed to animals. This trend is being primarily driven by the poultry industry, with having both non-GMO and organic poultry available. The egg industry may be the one that does absolutely the most incredible job at giving you pretty much everything you want. If you walk into some grocery stores, you have about 6 different options of the type of eggs that you want to buy. You know, they can be non-GMO, they can be organic, they can be brown eggs, white eggs, they can be free range. There's different types of free range. They can be free range organic, free range non-GMO, but just about anything that you want. And interestingly enough, there's a customer out there that's interested in buying each one of those. It may be grass-fed beef, it may be free-range pork, or it may be free-range chickens, and this list is specialty things that people are interested in. They want to know where their products are grown, they want to know how their products are grown, what inputs go into them. And so we need to figure out how to give our customer what they want so that somebody else doesn't do it. If we're talking about non-GMO, and that's where we're going to focus most of our time, we have to have those products to sell to people that are either in the poultry or pork industry before they can get started. It's a little bit of the chicken and egg thing, but we have to focus on doing non-GMO. So we have a supply of corn and soybean meal that we're able to build rations with. And when we build these rations, they need to perform. We need to have professional nutritionists put those things together. But we're also all in this together. One of the things that we have to do in this industry, and it's one of my main goals, is to make sure that the different type of producers quit being the enemy of the other producer. There's plenty of market out there for everybody. We need everybody to feed the world. So if it is non-GMO people, please don't say bad things about GMOs. If we're GMO people, don't be bad-mouthing the non-GMO people. There are markets for everybody, and we sure in the world don't need the 1% of farmers, producers of agriculture products, being the enemy of the other portion of that 1%. So let's all work together. Make sure we're promoting our own industry and not trying to grow ours by running somebody else down. When we talk about identity preserved, we're talking about having equipment that is, if we're using planters and combines, we need to make sure that they're cleaned out. We need to make sure that if we're also growing some other type other than non-GMO or organic, if we're using GMO products, between either planting and harvest, we need to make sure this equipment gets cleaned out. Also have to have separate storage, and one of the things that you might think about is that if you have, for instance, a 30,000 bushel bin, you might want to try to maximize production with that type of grain to utilize your 30,000 bushel bin, and that you don't raise 10,000 bushels of a crop that use up that 30,000 bushel bin for a season. When we talk about feed manufacturing, whether it is soybean crushing, and if I've worked closely with both Cargill and ADM, and for the most part, these guys aren't designed to shut down and run specific types of products through these large crushing facilities. So in some cases, we'll have to find people that are using extruder, expeller, smaller equipment, more specialized equipment that's able to segregate and keep separate the products that we need to go to the producers that are raising those non-GMO fed chickens, pork, dairy, beef, whatever it might be. And the same thing is true then on feed storage. We also have to keep the feed storage separate whenever we're putting, if we have more than one set of ingredients, we need to make sure that we're keeping those separate. And now we get to the part that all these customers want to think the best, but the truth of the matter is, as President Reagan said, we need to trust but verify. We as producers of agriculture producers, as farmers, know that 99 point something of us do a great job at taking care of livestock, making sure that we're using the correct rates of spray and all those types of things. But the consumer doesn't realize that. So it's absolutely important that we have a third-party verification program, and the VIPS system that we're talking about here today is one that can do the trust but verify portion of making sure that the consumer understands that everything that's being done is accurate, is the appropriate sort of practices for whatever the system that we're currently using. So VIPS is something that is going to be very important to us as we move to the future. And we're not going to see less of these specialty things. We're going to continue to see more and more. The great thing about that is it continues to provide additional and new opportunities that are going to have the potential to make us more successful as agriculture producers. So remember the VIPS program. Make sure that we're verifying all the things that we're doing, each step that's being recorded, and that we're when we get products that go to the end user, that the consumers, those customers of ours, are going to feel confident that we're doing the right things. Also, the other thing as we move to the future, we want to look at, we need to continue to drive new technology. We need to make sure that yield enhancement, focusing on higher yields, regardless what system we're in, is something that's going to be important. Looking at amino acid profiles, for instance, and each set of livestock would have a different type of profile. So if we're trying to put rations together with the highest performance for poultry, it's going to be different than it is certainly for beef cattle or dairy. And the carbohydrate profiles, looking at especially soybeans, how do we actually get more feed value out of a soybean, especially as it relates to energy. If we modify some of the carbohydrate profiles, we can actually get better performance from that. And finally, the fatty acid profiles can help us supply and deliver higher value, higher quality with safer, healthier fats in oils, specifically with soybean oil, that are going to deliver more value to the customer, therefore delivering more value back to the producer. The interesting thing is all these things, whether it's amino acids, carbohydrates, or fatty acids, we're going to have to track and trace each one of those, making sure that if we're going to get the value out of those, we need a VIPS program for them as well. I certainly have appreciated the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today, and look forward to doing it again in the future very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. They're a great job, and we appreciate you being here with us today and shedding a light on a lot of good stuff. So thank you very much. You're a great American. Well, it's been really exciting to have these great working relationships with what I call some of the better professionals and people that are out here actually making it all work. And when you say about folks that are making it all work, I have a great relationship opportunity. I've worked with this gentleman for several years in many different ways, but he's one of the folks that really make it work. He is an outside the box thinker. He does bring a lot of good ideas to a team concept and a system approach. So with no other ado, I would really like to introduce to you to another great American that's really committed to make you money, save you time, and that is his slogan. No other than John Ortiz. John, would you please join us?
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Thank you. Hey guys, girls, my name is John Ortiz, like Bill said, and yeah, that is correct. I've got a slogan. I don't quite say it the way Mr. Bill does, but what I try to do is try to reduce your costs to make you more efficient, increase your bottom lines. We go about that several ways, several opportunities that we try to present that to you guys, but not here to talk to you guys about that. Here to discuss and tell you guys some of the things that I've been seeing around our area and some of the concerns that's been going on and why this VIPS system is so important. Basically, a long time ago, probably a year ago, Successful Farming came out with an article. Actually, when an article is on their cover of their magazine. This is why we do this thing. It says, Successful Farming, meet your new boss. Meet your bloggers, the foodies, the millennials, things of that nature. But it's like what Dale touched base on is people are wanting to know where their food's coming from, how it's being raised, how it's being grown, and what a better way and opportunity than to be able to do that through VIPS. Basically, we'll be able to track it from the time it's planted to the time it's harvested to the time it leaves for you all. And not only is that in row crops, but we can also do this with some other vegetables, horticulture industry, things of that nature. So that's another key reason why this thing is important. But this thing hits at home for me, basically for the fact that I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids, and Max and Eva and Hillary, and this is us. We're doing this. She's conscious about what we're eating, what we're consuming, what our kids are eating, where we shop. Not only is it with food, but she's also doing that with house cleaning products as well. Dog food, non-GMO type thing, looking for all natural ingredients. So it's not just with us, but it's also with our animals as well and our kids. We're trying to keep an eye on what we're feeding these guys. So restaurants as well. This farm to fork or field to farm or table, that thing is really taking off as well. But I mean, you could see this right here. This is the market. This is where things are going, and we need to be able to address our consumers and give them what they're wanting. And VIPS is what they're wanting. And what's great about this as well is there's no better way than to be able to track and trace and meet where your food's coming from, or see the grower, or what opportunity would it be if you go to the store and there's a picture. This is what I envision, hopefully in the future. But you go to the store, go to the grocery store, wherever you're at, you're shopping, you see an item there, and there's a picture of the grower or what have you, and you can track this thing with your phone, pull out your phone, QR scan it, and it goes back from where it was planted, harvested, things of that nature. That's where I see this thing going, which is huge. But again, right here, meet your new boss. That's it.
Thanks, John. I tell you what, appreciate it. You put a whole new flavor to what we see out here with consumers, and I think just as John and I have talked as we went through the last couple of years on seeing VIPS grow and talking about branding the farm and tracking and tracing. John's just been such a tremendous asset of bringing in data, lots of data collection. That kind of sets me up with our next speaker. And John, thank you very much.
Right, thanks, guys.
So I guess the next gentleman I want to introduce, and he's again probably one of the smartest young men that we've ever had a chance to work with. He's got a great career. He does a lot of work with data collection, and kind of how the data with all the ag products are kind of matching up with a lot of the data that we're seeing on research and marketing. So with no further ado, I can't tell you how great it is to work with this gentleman. His name is Kent Kaufman. And Kent, it's exciting to have you here, and thank you. Please join us today, Kent.
Thank you, Bill. Like you said, I'm Kent Kaufman. I'm the CEO and Research Director of the Farm Research Center here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing to make organic and non-GMO cost competitive with your conventional farmings and what's happening there. And so the big difference is with organic crops, you're pretty much getting roughly 2.5 times the price that you do for GMOs grown conventionally. So you're getting that money to work with there. You're getting about right now 15 to 18% lower yield, and so we're working on a lot of different ways to raise that yield and to raise the cost competitiveness there. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce input costs and just general production costs to a similar level of the conventional farming. For non-GMO, you're usually getting anywhere from a 10 to 25% premium for the non-GMO, which more than makes up for any yield difference there. There's really not much yield difference between GMO and non-GMO. Plus, your cost of seed is a whole lot cheaper for non-GMO seed, and also with the right to plant stuff coming along, that should really help driving down input costs there. And so one of the things that we've been working on here on the farm is the burning the weeds to work for weed control there. And so I really like burning weeds just for the input costs alone. So what we're running, when we're running it through a field with crops in the field, we're running anywhere from 4 to 7 gallons of propane an acre. And what this does is it puts it at a very cost-effective price point compared to your conventional herbicides. And so you're getting very close just to how much money you're spending there, but then you're getting your 2.5 time premium for the crops you're growing. And the equipment costs that we're seeing with the burning equipment is anywhere from 1/5 to 1/10 as much as a conventional sprayer. Now, you're not going as fast with the burning equipment as you are with the sprayer, but the actual output cost to purchase that equipment and your maintenance costs are much lower on the burning equipment. So especially if you're running a smaller family farm, even if you're not organic, if you're just running non-GMO or something like that, you're still going to get a very cost-effective way to control weeds there, again with a little bit of insect control as well. And another thing we're working on, not just the burning and the flaming equipment, is we're working on using biocontrols. So biocontrols, we've been working a lot with biocontrols, like our in-furrow treatments. For most of you are aware of that, and if you're not, our in-furrow treatment, we run a biological in the row as we plant the seed. Now, what it does is the microbes have a lot of good effects on your plant, on the roots, help protect it from diseases, help increase your nutrient take up from the soil. And so this is actually one form of biocontrol. And another form of biocontrol is spraying the microbe over top. And so we have a lot of different microbes for different diseases. So we have one microbe, it's a fungicide, but it's a fungicide for aphids. And so you spray it on top of the aphid, and then the aphid gets a fungus, and then it dies from that. We have another microbe, which is actually it's a virus that we spray in whenever you have a fungus on your crop, and then it infects that fungus and kills that fungus. So these are some of the things of biocontrols. We're also developing an insect delivery platform, and so you can use various insects from parasitic wasps to ladybugs to, these are your beneficial insects, to kill your harmful bugs. And so right now, it's slightly more expensive to use these beneficial insects than it is to use a conventional spray down. But what we're working on is to keep those beneficial bugs around in your crops. And so that way, you're not spraying every 2 or 3 weeks to kill your insects. You're just dropping your beneficial insects, and then you have a season-long residual. And a whole bunch of research is also being done to keep those insects in your fields year after year. And so a lot of this is being done in Europe right now, which is nice because they're basically functioning as a test bed, so that way we can just get up and go and hit the ground running here in the United States. And I had a new purchase today, or a new purchase this year that a lot of you guys have seen. Is the spray drone, which I'm going to use a lot for performing 4-row tests and that. But with the heavy lift capability, we're going to work on delivering some parasitic wasps and some ladybugs over the field. And I see a lot of potential in this because you don't really have the capability right now to run a spray drone over large acres, but you do have the capability to run insects over large acres just because of the light weight and the low number of insects you need to release per acre. And finally, one of the things that we've been working on a lot here on the research farm is using cover crops. And so a lot of guys, they look at cover crops and they see the price of cover crops, and that just turns them off right away, because cover crops in general are not particularly cheap, especially if you don't have a cash cover crop and you're just planting the cover crop by itself. But what we're seeing here, we're seeing a lot of good benefits. One of the big ones being weed control, and that the places where we plant cover crops, we're just not having the same weeds that we have in other locations. Like, we're not having issues where we did cover crops, we're not having issues with water hemp and weeds like that, which can be very, very annoying whenever you're planting crops. We're not having the same issues with cuckleburs and things like that. So that's a very nice benefit of planting your cover crops. And also, we're seeing, depending on what you're doing with radishes and turnips and various nitrogen producing cover crops, we're seeing an increase in nitrogen, which is really nice whenever we're going over to corn and planting that after the cover crop. So while it does cost some money, it's not just the preventing the soil erosion and things like that, but it's the weed control and it's the nutrient production that these cover crops have. And we're seeing, because cover crops are coming into favor right now, and they're really starting to expand, we're also seeing a lot of good research on cash cover crops. And so wheat is technically a cash cover crop for most people. I mean, you're running your soybeans a little bit later, but you're getting cash for that cover crop. You're getting the weed control, which is really nice. But we're going to be experimenting with some pennycress as well for some oil, for some biofuels, and just kind of see where that goes. And there's a lot of good research there, and a lot of universities using grant work to develop cash cover crops to help farmers make their money back there. And so that's most of what we're doing right now. It's it's pretty exciting. We got a lot of nice things going on, and as we say here, we're going to save you money, make you money, or save you time. And with all the research we're doing, that's exactly what we'll do. Thanks for watching.
Well, thanks everyone. I really appreciate all of our experts today, everybody that was participated on our webinar. I want to thank you all for joining us on the webinar, and I'd just like to close with a couple of things about VIPS and share with you the VIPS system. VIPS is our brand, our Smart Farm brands, and if you look back here, you can see the Smart Farm sign. So that is our Smart Farm brand, along with our way that our farmers are on what we call our Smart Farms verification. So this gives you national and global access to a website and where people can find you. So VIPS is a system of track and traceability for all of our crops, and that's pretty cool stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you about the VIPS program, consumers want to do business with you, the farmer. I mean, they want to do business with you, the farmer. Why? Because they believe their food is safer. They want to know where they get their food and why they get it and the way they get it. And the more transparent we can become as agriculture through the VIPS program, the tracking and traceability, the more dollars people are willing to spend. Consumers are willing to spend more dollars if they trust their food and their food system. So VIPS is a standardization using a ISO 17065. And that's been doing really, really well because we've used a third party, which is MOA, third party system, Missouri Mid-American Organic Association, which creates the credibility of a food safe system, tracking and tracing and verifying through a third party. So that adds more value to you as a producer. Whether you're non-GMO, whether you're almost or transitional, whether you're organic, whether you're raising fruits and vegetables, livestock, or whatever, the VIPS program really fits your scenario. It's a great system. So producers going to the marketplace with buyers buying your product, that's a powerful. When you have collectively a way to put all your products together. We have buyers now that say we would like to buy 10 million bushel of non-GMO corn. If you'll watch the news, you'll see Cargill is now really involved in trying to buy for their consumers who wants non-GMO and transitional, whether it's organic or whether it is chemical-free. VIPS fits that program. So consumers, remember, want to buy from you, the producer. So if you will look at our logo, our last thing that I want to share with you is the Smart Farm Systems, and it is a quality assurance logo. The quality assurance logo is verification, and it is a tremendous, powerful tool to track and trace your product from the birth to the grave, just like a lot of our speakers before shared with you. So this is Bill Cook, thanking you again for joining us on this webinar and wishing you a great 2017.